You're listening to Get.Out.N.Drive podcast with John, Custom Car Nerd Meyer, and Shawn, Mr. Sedan Man Sherrill. We'll be bringing you gearheads all the information you never wanted to know about cars and why they should be on the road and not in your garage. Are you ready to get out and drive?
I am Shawn, Mr. Sedan Man Sherrill.
And I am John, Custom Car Nerd Meyer.
Today we are talking with Eddy Gatton. He is the current caretaker of the Imperial Stormtrooper 1972 Vega show car.
Hey, Eddy.
Thanks for being on with us today, Eddy.
Hey, how you doing, fellas?
Doing
Thank
well.
you for having me.
Yep.
So how are things going up where you're at with all this lockdown and everything?
We take it one day at a time. I got a 7-month-old daughter and a 8-year-old, soon-to-be 9-year-old stepson. So of course it's a little scary at times. You know, You never know when you leave the house if the door handle I'm about to touch is possibly the last one I'll touch. But I'm lucky in the sense that I'm a truck driver. I do local delivery, and we are deemed essential. So it really, I haven't personally had to stay at home much. We have slowed down. We have slowed down a little bit, but unlike a lot of these unfortunate people who have been locked up in their houses for the past 3 months now, I really haven't had to deal with that. So
yeah, well, very good.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Like I said, you just take it one day at a time, man. That's all we can do. We're all in uncharted territory. We're all in this together, as cheesy as it is to say, but
right.
Just got to take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, everybody's in the same boat, and
exactly.
Just got to try to make it to the end.
Exactly.
Wherever and whenever that may be.
Exactly.
Yep. So your dad built this 72 Vega.
He did.
Give us a little bit of background on that.
Well, I'll try to give you as much information as I can. He is definitely an expertise in the car knowledge. I wasn't really as fortunate to get that from him, but it is a 72 Chevy Vega hatchback. It's got a 426 Hemi power plant, Hillborn injection. He originally used to drag race it when he came back from Vietnam. Him and his friend Tom used to drag race it at the local drag strip, both in Rockford, so that would be the Byron Dragway, and then he used to the one in Indiana, US 30, and Hobart, however you want to pronounce it. And he went. I think he told me it was 898. At 151 miles an hour was his best pass, and the very next pass he tried to top it in a front tie rod. I think he said the passenger side tie rod blew, and he went into the wall and completely wrecked the car. And that's when they decided maybe racing isn't that's when he decided maybe racing isn't really what I want to be doing. And I don't know what, aside from that, I don't really know what really sparked him to say, well, let's make a show car and theme it after Star Wars. That, unfortunately, I couldn't tell you, other than I know Star Wars was incredibly popular at the time, and I think he just really wanted to him and his friend wanted to personally capitalize on it,
Right.
Maybe not financially capitalize on it, not trying to take any copyright infringement on one George Lucas or anything like that. But,
right.
But get something that people knew and name
exactly.
that they knew and things like that. Right? Yeah, because I don't see any Star Wars other than the words Imperial Stormtrooper. I don't see any X-Wing fighters. I don't see any Star Wars references and things like that. There's not a space scene on the side of it and things like that. It's
no. On the hatchback there is an actual Stormtrooper.
Okay.
And the display, see, this is where I would need my dad, but the display had audio, and I think the audio, I could be wrong, was the Darth Vader anthem or music or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
But that I can't 100% verify.
Sure.
So how long have you had this car, Eddy?
Well, if you ask my dad, it was my car as soon as I was born. You know,
I got you.
How long have I mean, it's been in storage. Let's see. My dad, after he won it. Okay, so my dad won the grand finale in 79-80. So May of 80, he won the grand finale. And after he had won it, he had told me that he pretty much had felt he had accomplished everything that he ever really wanted to do. And he had accomplished it on his own. You know, a lot of guys at the time had teams of people, or they were sponsored by big, I don't know if corporation, but they had sponsors.
Right.
My dad built the whole car out of the garage. You know, aside from that car being painted by Ernie Ball, rest in peace, Ernie Ball in Springfield.
Right.
That whole thing, that was all done by my father, and his friend Tom. You know, it took a while. Obviously, it took 3.5, 4 years, but that was all them.
Right.
And I think when he had won, he had just had this sense of accomplishment of, I'm at the top, and there's really not much further to go from here. So it just sat in storage, and then I came along, and obviously me being a boy, I think my dad had desires to sell it, but then when I came along, it was immediately, well, it's his car now, and it was probably the summer of 1992 when I saw the car in person for the first time, because at that point, at that point, the only time I ever knew about it was in pictures. The picture.
It was stored. It was stored somewhere other than you lived.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was stored somewhere else than we lived. He had it in a trailer, and it was stored somewhere in a farmer that used to rent out land to people who had like RVs and trailers and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it was stored there. And then the farmer had told my father that he was selling all his acres of land. They were going to be building a subdivision. So my dad said, well, I got to do something with it. So he brought it home, and that was the first time I'd ever seen it in person. At that point, the only way it existed was through the pictures that you guys, if you've seen my Facebook page, through the pictures that I posted on my Facebook. That was the only way I knew it existed. So, I mean, I'm 34 years old now. I was 7 at the time. I don't really know if I was old enough to even really appreciate what it was. I mean, I knew my dad, it was my dad's car, and it was something that, you know, he built. I remember him saying, you know, we're going to store this away, and when you get old enough, you can do whatever you want to do with it.
So
obviously that hasn't happened.
Talk me through just a tiny bit. Your dad won, I know, the 79-80 Grand National Championship.
Yeah.
So he won that, and according to ISCA rules, you have to change the car to compete for that again, or build another car, and that car couldn't compete again. And how does your dad put that much work into it and just shut the doors and walk away from that car and never show it again?
I think my dad, because if you look at the amount of shows my dad attended that year, I think he either attended 14 shows or 17 shows. He went to a lot.
That's a lot.
And he won all of them. And and I think when it was all said and done, I don't know if my dad felt like he was shortchanged, because he won a car. He won a brand new 1980 Mustang Cobra, which at the time was state-of-the-art technology. He won money. He won a championship. He got a trophy, which he still has.
Sure.
But I think I don't know if he felt like he was owed more. I think he just felt like maybe the Holy Grail wasn't really worth as much as he thought it was going to be.
Sure.
And I think he was at that point, he was just done. He just didn't want to do it anymore.
So that was his first and only.
That would be my best guess.
Sure, I understand. That's his first and only ISCA car?
Yes. Now the year previously, or this touring season previously, 78, 79, that's when he was still, him and his friend, Tom Heath, they were co-showing the car. And they didn't win the grand finale, but they were the competition sweepstakes winner, and they won a 79 Mustang Cobra for it. Tom kept the Cobra, and then my dad bought Tom's share of the car out, and then went out on his own. And I think really my dad just, I think he just really wanted to prove that he could do it. Basically, I mean,
Sure.
I hate to be so repetitive. I can't speak for him, but that would be my best guess.
Yeah.
Okay, because I asked because I see some of these show cars that are like your dad's car, like your car, or whatever you want to speak of it, that are over the top. And once they meet a pinnacle of I can't go any higher, the car almost disappears. And it is. I mean, just to pick out one car immediately is Rick Dauberton's Pro Street J2000. And are you familiar with that car? Yeah, right. That car, just the absolute pinnacle of ridiculousness of Pro Street and everything. There was nothing that could top that car, and he didn't do anything after that. Other than build a Land Rover. We won't even talk about that mess. But in that era, we just, I don't know. Cars become just so incredibly detailed, and you either completely revamp them and they become another car, or a different version of that car, or they just go away into oblivion.
Well, I know my dad had said it got to the point where it wasn't fun anymore. That the fun was becoming work. That the fun was becoming work, and that he always said, "I'm spending money to work. I don't want to spend money to work. I already work as it is." So maybe that was part of it. I know he had hinted because Crazy Horse, Tony Federline's Crazy Horse.
Right, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. Which I talked to his son Jeremiah. I know Crazy Horse lost to my dad 2 years in a row.
Yes.
And my dad will throw jabs around every now and then, because I think the year that my dad won, Tony went to twice as many shows and still wound up like 150 points less than my father. But the point I was getting at is, after my dad had won, Tony started engraving. Everything became engraving, and I know my dad said he just didn't care. He didn't care to get into that because he knew it was going to be costly. It wasn't fun, and he had already won. I mean, once you already win, I mean, yeah, he said, would it have been cool to win back to back? Yeah, but he said the thrill, the stress outweighed the thrill, and
I see.
It just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Shawn and I had this conversation last night about show cars and perfect restored vintage cars and things, how they become a static display, because if you use them, you'll ruin them and all this stuff. That's what Get.Out.N.Drive is about. I don't care what your car is, jump in it and do it. And I know Shawn's got a lot of opinions on that also, and I've built a lot of date coded paint daub, crazy rotisserie restored cars. I've built a lot of them, and they are no fun.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I think my dad was at the Civic Center in Peoria, and somebody challenged my dad's the Vega, because they more or less just got sick of him beating them. And they challenged it and said that the car didn't start, which, according to that, cars got to start.
ISCA rules, right?
Yeah,
ISCA rules. The car has to drive in on its own.
And it's got to back up, go forward, and make a left and right hand turn.
Yes.
So he had to start it. Well, that's a 426 Hemi. It's gonna make a lot of mess. So after it started, I remember my dad telling me that he was so pissed because he couldn't show then, because he had to spend all the time cleaning it up. And he said he knew. He said, I knew what they were doing. I knew exactly what he said, because that was the only tactic they had at that point.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, that it is a beautiful car. And it's something that I know you're the owner of the car and everything, and you see it, you know what it is, and we're going to talk about current condition of the car in a minute, but I can just close my eyes and remember that seal, ISCA Grand Champion, National Grand Champion winner. I know the picture, I know what the girl looks like, I know what everything looks like. That picture is it's stuck in my head. Beautiful car that you have there. Go ahead, Shawn.
So talk us Talk to us a little bit about the current condition of the car.
The current condition, I mean, it is it needs restoration. There's no way to get around it. I mean, it's been stored in the same trailer since 1992. The paint's cracked. The taillights are rusted. A mouse got inside the interior and did a number. I'll let your mind wander what that means.
Oh yeah. Not much wonder needed on that.
Yeah, it hasn't started since then either. So who knows, mechanically speaking, what is wrong? Cracked block, if it's seized, what have you.
Right.
It needs TLC. There's no other way to describe it. It hurts to know that it's just sitting there. Because I'll be honest, my dad doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Oh wow!
And I'm not trying to, pick on my father.
No.
But he doesn't care. Now there are reasons behind that, some personal reasons. But he doesn't care. Ironically enough, when I first started getting into drag racing when I was like, 15, 16 years old, because I wasn't into cars when I was a kid. I really wasn't. I mean, I knew what my dad's car was and it looked cool. I didn't care for Star Wars. I'm not a Star Wars guy. I'm Ghostbusters and G.I. Joe. And once I started getting a little older and started realizing, big motor, small car, go fast, I remember really talking to my dad about, can we just bring this home and strip this thing down, paint it black, and let's go drag racing? Because we lived, when I was still living at home, we lived right down the street from Route 66 Raceway in Joliet, Illinois. That's what I really wanted. Yeah, that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to go drag racing. And it wasn't until I made that Facebook page and started posting those pictures that I realized how many people were enamored with the scheme and how it looked. And that's when I started thinking recently more so that regardless of the condition, because it is in poor condition, there's no other way to describe it. It's in poor condition. It needs complete
everybody
restoration.
wants to see it. Everybody wants to see it. They look at the cars in McCacken.
Yeah.
They look at the way time has affected these cars. And I'm not telling you at all what to do with your car.
No, hey man,
brother, get it. And everybody involved, get your car out. You don't have to drive it, whatever. Drag it somewhere. Take pictures of it. Please let us see it.
Well, what I really wanted to do is I wanted to bring it home to my house and just clean it up the best as I can. And whether I bring it to a show or whether I just take pictures of it on my driveway and post it. I wanted it to just so people can see, hey, she may not look like what she used to, but we still have her, and that's all that matters. Because a lot of show cars from that era, if they didn't win, they were either sold or they became cheap hot rods.
Yes.
I know The Godfather, which was another guy that had problems showing against my dad. He got tired of it, and he went drag racing with it.
Right.
Now, I'm not ever gonna rip on what somebody else does with their car, but to take a show car and to just go to the drag strip, it's not what it was,
Right. Yeah, I think, I mean, that's my own personal thing, and I love seeing, and you've seen all the cars McCacken, you've seen them with dirt on them, you've seen muscle car barn find stuff. Shawn and I talk about it all the time. How awesome would that be to see Imperial Stormtrooper and it hadn't been messed with? Pull it out, make sure it's reasonable and not completely fenders falling off it, and get it out so people can see it. Dude, you will be the star of the show. You will be the star of the show.
I'd agree with that too. I mean, people would flip over that.
Well,
not cleaned up at all, just exactly as it is.
I had brought it up, and I want to say 3 years ago, the ISCA show, the World of Wheels in McCormick Place. I had brought it up to the guy who put the show on. I forget his name, and I had said, I was like, what would it take for me to show it here again? And he said, well, it's got to be, basically it had to be in pristine condition.
Sure.
And I had got a little kind of defensive with them because I had said, you know, you guys are really missing out by not having a patina class or like a barnyard fine class, because, you know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but if you had that class here in Chicago, where the car is originally from,
sure,
I would be led to believe that a lot of people would want to come see it. People from out of state would want to come see it.
Oh yes, definitely, definitely,
you know?
sure.
And it kind of it bothered me, and in a way, it kind of makes me understand where my dad was coming from through all those years.
Yeah, I've met great people, as has Shawn, met great people in car scene, and I've met terrible people in the car scene. And it is, we all have hundreds of stories and everything. We have people write in, email us, and hit us on social media all the time with a bunch of different stuff that they talk about and things they've been jaded, you know, mentally, you know, here's a trophy, you know, all sorts of things. And it gets to me, unless you get to a certain level that your father did, or you get to AMBR, you know, and things like that. You get to that level, it's a bowling trophy to me. And I would much rather have paint chips on the front of my car than another trophy from another show on Sunday at a church.
Added to the
right. But to get to that level, it takes a large amount of dedication and work
and passion
and passion. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, one. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the reasons why I'm kind of so floored by it is because a lot of people have told me just how much the car means to them. And it always meant something to me. You know, it's my father's car. You know, I love him. Of course, whatever you know, the thing could have been a moped and I probably would have loved it, you know. But to hear people talk about how influential he was in the Pro Street era, or how he was one of the first people. I think he was the first person to take a race car and turn it into a show car, because the cars back then never saw the drag strip.
Sure.
And to hear people say that that car influenced their childhood, I mean, I have had members of the National Hot Rod Hall of Fame message me on my Facebook page saying, your car changed my life. And to hear that is, that's incredible. You know,
that's a big deal.
Whether that was his intention to change the landscape of show cars, I don't know, but it's a hell of an unintended consequence, and a good one at that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big deal, and we've talked about it briefly. It affected me, and I knew that. I was jumping up and down, and I was crazy, telling Shawn that we were going to interview you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He was like a kid in the candy store. Hey, look at this! Look at this! Look at this!
Yeah. And that's what I love. I love when I hear people say, hey, I saw that car at Cobo Hall, or I saw it at the Civic Center, or I mean, I've had people message me from Canada saying that they saw it when my dad went up there to Winnipeg. I didn't even know he went to Winnipeg. And you know, and then I bring it up to him. He's like, oh yeah, I went to Winnipeg, and it was a pain in the ass to get a passport back then, because obviously everything was done by mail. You know, you didn't do anything on the internet.
Right.
It's like, to hear that is awesome. I mean, they may be cheesy to say, but there really is no other adjective I can use to describe.
No, it's not, and that's what those cars were. That car was meant as a draw. You know, ISCA took key cars, and they would have it. Like Chicago would have an A show that would have considered an A show. St. Louis never had A shows. St. Louis always had B shows. We never had the Grand National Champion after it was champion. We never had, you know, these, that, and those other little cars that I kept seeing in magazines when I was a kid. You know, we never had Pinball Wizard here. You know, we never had the Fuzzy Batmobile and things like that. Consistently, every now and then, every other year or something, we'd have it. it's just we never had the big shows that Chicago had, that New York had, that California had, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's a draw or what, but I do remember seeing your dad's car.
Yeah, that surprises me because depending where you're coming from, I mean, it's about 5.5 hours from Chicago to.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not close, don't get me wrong, but it's not, I mean, you're not going from California to Florida, you know what I mean?
No,
Right.
I understand. And the Midwest and East Coast,
exactly.
cross country, Canada, Midwest, East Coast, stuff like that. Your dad hit those pretty hard.
Oh, yeah, he did. I still have all the my dad did a very good job of saving pretty much everything.
Okay.
He has a ton of the Showstopper magazines from back then. And yeah, like I said, I think the year he won, I think he either did 14 or 17 shows. And
wow.
I mean, Nebraska, Detroit, Canada, you know, St. Louis, obviously Chicago, Wisconsin, Vegas, because obviously that was the be all end all right there. I mean, that was a lot of work.
Deal. Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Go ahead.
Lot of work, a lot of traveling, and lot of expense just to travel and hotels, and you know, never mind the car. You know, so yeah, dedication,
right,
for sure.
Well, passion, like I was saying earlier, he definitely had a passion for it. Because I don't know if you guys knew this or if I mentioned it. He used to have he had a race car. He had a 49 Anglia called Brown Sugar that he used to drag race. Right when he came back from, my dad was in Vietnam. When he came back from Vietnam, he went right to the drag strip, and he had a 49 Anglia with a 291 Hemi called Brown Sugar, and then that's when the Vega Pinto like gremlin scene kind of started to come about, and that's when they switched to the Vega, and then I guess the rest is history at that point.
Because I know you say the car is a 72.
It's a 72, correct? Yeah.
What year did he start building the car? 75.
He raced it from 72 to 75 because they took the entire 76 and 77 show car season off.
Okay, so he took a fairly new or a brand new car.
No, it wasn't brand new.
Race car? It was a 1 year old, like 1 year old or so.
The Vega, yeah, it was the body. It was a rolling chassis. It was a rolling chassis with a Vega body that he got from somewhere in Chicago. Again, this is where I would need his help, but
still, the car, I mean, it's a 72, and it's still kind of built, even if it was 73, 74, it's still built not as the Imperial Stormtrooper, but as a race car.
Yeah,
it was still a very new car.
Yeah, and not only that, he even when he raced it, he had the Hemi in there, and I know he got a lot of negative comments for it.
Right.
And the same comments existed when he showed it, because when he won in 1980, Ford was really reluctant to give a guy who had a Chevy car that had a Chrysler engine a new Mustang. And my dad said, "It's a show car, isn't it? It's a show car, isn't it? I mean, of course the Vega didn't roll off the assembly plant like this. Look at it."
Right. Definitely. And that Hemi that's in that, I've looked. That's and is it a late Hemi? Like, is this like a 69, 68 Hemi? I don't remember if it's an early Hemi.
I know it's a Keith Black, if that answers your question. I don't know.
So it's just a complete aftermarket.
Yeah, it's a complete aftermarket. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was an iron block.
Yeah, when I was looking at it, I noticed it's a dual plug.
Yep.
He's got dual mags on it.
Yeah, dual. Yep. With a very extremely rare Mallory ignition too. At least that's what my dad tells me. Very rare Mallory ignition. Whether that is or isn't, I don't know. But
but I think for what that car is, I think that's the perfect engine.
I agree.
I mean, if it had been a big block Chevy, small block Chevy, I don't know that it would have had the impact of what the dual plug Hemi did.
I totally agree. And what I used to tell people all the time, because, you'd get some knucklehead that said, well, why didn't he put a 454 in there? Or why didn't he put a 396 in there? And I would always say, well, in terms of the Hemi, well, why not? I mean,
right.
He had a passion for racing, and he had a passion for being original. And nobody else was doing at the time what him and his friend were doing. So let's go with it. You know, you're of course fine. Yeah, it's a Chrysler in a GM, but it's not like the engine that came in that the Vega was any good to begin with.
No.
Right. No, that's exactly right.
Boat anchor.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. Do you still have the display?
Yeah, my dad. Everything we have, everything that you see. It might not. The display is in the same condition as the car is. Sure. You know, the glass that that mirrored the car is all cracked. I know the paint is kind of seen better days. I mean, sure. I don't even know about the fuses if you plugged them in, if they would still even work. But we still have that, and the big display, the one that said, you know, Eddy Gatton presents Imperial Stormtrooper, that is in the basement of my parents' house, and that still works. That still lights up. So yeah, everything, we own everything. That's what I tell her. You know, everything that you see, we still have. It's definitely seen better days, but we still own it. We still own it.
That's incredible.
It's cool that it's all together and still there.
And another note on the display, all of that was completely hand built. None of that was over the counter. That was all completely, much like the car, completely my own, my dad's own, through his own doing, through his own build.
Wow,
neat.
That is crazy. Neat. Do you, Eddie? Do you have any cars or any vehicles of your own, or any modified cars or trucks?
I don't.
Have any interest in that stuff or no?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's if I were to open my garage and someday see a GNX Grand National, I would be extremely ecstatic. That's sure. My favorite car of all time. I love if I can get my hands on like a 68 or 69 Roadrunner with either a 440 and a 6-pack or a Hemi. I would love that. But I also love kind of like the people make fun of me for it, but I don't care. I love the DeLorean. I absolutely love the DeLorean.
Sure.
I love, probably because of my father, because it was different. The gull wing doors, the motor in the back. Right. I would love to have a DeLorean. I mean, I know they're locomotives when it comes to getting off the line or going anywhere, but yeah, I would love to have a Cyclone or a Typhoon. As you can tell, I already mentioned. As you can tell, I already mentioned the Grand National. So I'm a big fan of the I'm a big fan of the turbocharging. Yeah, nothing's come of it, but I am every bit as passionate about cars as my father was. Just not with my own project. The Vega will be my project.
Right. No, I get it, because we always talk about passing the torch.
Yeah,
we got to get the next generation, and you're right in the middle.
Yep.
You know, you're right in the middle. You said you're 37.
I will be turning 35 in July.
35, and it is right in the middle of, you know, we've got people that we talk to in their 20s and 30s and things that we try and get interested. I just want to see what goes through your mind, because we've talked about 30-year loop for nostalgia, and it is very much. I want to see what strikes your fancy, what gets you going. So,
well, on top of that, you know, I went to the World of Wheels this past year. I go every year. It's boring, for lack of a better word. I respect. Don't get me wrong. I respect the many hours of work that these guys have put into it, and the amount of money they put into it. But people used to tell me that they would get excited to go when my dad was showing, because they would be finally seeing the Imperial Stormtrooper, or they would finally be seeing Tony Federline's Crazy Horse, or Harry Willett's Disco T. Yep. There isn't that now. It doesn't exist.
Right.
And it seems like it's not so much show car. It's, well, this guy put $1 million into it, so yeah, he can show it. And I don't like that. That's not that's not fun. that's what my dad was getting at, where it
Right.
became work. It wasn't fun anymore. You know, it became, let's throw all these dollars at it and that'll solve the problem. That's not, I don't like that. And
Right.
and I kind of feel like maybe me hanging on to the Vega, maybe that would be the shot of adrenaline that this this new era needs.
Sure. Yeah, especially if you got the car to where it move under its own power, you could drive it somewhere. You know, whatever it is, if it has slicks on it, put treaded tires on it for whatever reason, and get the thing out, get out and drive. It would be amazing to see that car move under its own power.
Yeah,
I agree. Even if I had to tow it somewhere though, just to show it, I would be fine with that.
I'd love that. Don't knock that, man. I would love it. And I
think people would just like to see it.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah, I can't tell you enough, man. Don't go cleaning it up. Yet.
I think there's a big desire nowadays to see barn finds, or whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
You said McCacken has a whole section for barn finds, and I see as many people taking pictures of those as the perfectly restored paint dot everything else, you know. And people will probably talk more about those, honestly.
I agree, because they're survivors,
right? And that car being unchanged show car from back in the day, you know, like you said, a lot of people would change their car up because they just want something different, or they want to compete again, and the car will take on a totally different personality, and you know, for that car, the Imperial Stormtrooper to still be the Imperial Stormtrooper is awesome.
Yeah, I know. It was a few years ago. We had a show in St. Louis, and a collector had a fire, and he lost like 50 cars. And it was like a month or so or whatever before the show. This guy drove into the show a completely burnt to the ground. Shawn, was it Daytona?
Superbird.
Oh,
it was a Superbird.
Oh.
It was a Superbird. And I stood there. I have a video of this guy and his daughter getting in this car, shutting the door. The rubber and trim and interior pieces fell down on his daughter, and she's holding it up. The dude fired it up, drove it out of the thing, and put it on a trailer.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Probably the highlight of the show, I'm assuming.
Oh, everybody stopped when he fired that thing up.
Yes. Yeah, because everybody kind of said, "Oh my God, look, there's a burnt car. What happened?" Everybody's kind of whispering, "What happened? What happened?" And the story moves through the crowd, and everybody says, "Oh man, that's terrible." Everybody thought that he pushed it there. When he got in and he started that car, I mean, they obviously put tires on it so he could get there and everything.
Of course.
But the fact that he still had the ability to start that car, drive it, and move it under its own power to go put it on the trailer, people were just standing there, and I could not count how many people that were just their mouths just dropped open.
I would have
bonkers.
I would have felt the same way.
Yeah. And I believe that's exactly the reaction that people would have if they saw your car as found, as original, uncleaned, as it sits. Just absolutely incredible.
Well, and it's, you know, I get a lot of negative comments on the Facebook page from people that'll say, you know, well, why did you let it become that way, or why didn't your father sell it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's
really
his choice to do whatever he wants to with
it. Really, well, it's really none of it's really none of your business, and I mean that
right
in the nicest non-confrontational way possible. I mean, without, you know, toot my own horn, I think it's pretty cool that we've hung on to a survivor and have turned a negative, into a positive, just like what you just described with the Daytona. I mean, it probably would have been very easy for that guy to say, you know what, it ain't worth it. I'm just going to try to scrap it for as much as I can, if I can even get anything for it.
Correct.
But to turn that into a positive is that's an incredible story, and that really would be what I would like to do with the Vega, what I would want to do with the Vega, honestly.
Sure. Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome. Hey, Eddie, What drives you?
The passion, the creativity, the craftsmanship, and the overall desire to be the best that all these show car guys have done, that all these car owners have done with their vehicles. Overall, what drives me in my heart is that my father helped create and usher in an era that everybody remembers to this day, and I want to bring it back.
Man, that's fantastic. You got any more questions here yet, Shawn?
I don't have any more right now.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, I really don't. I thought it was absolutely enjoyable talking with you for a bit, Eddie.
Oh yeah.
And
Thank you.
It's
Likewise,
super
guys.
cool. Keep hauling. Hopefully soon. Keep us in touch. Send me pictures of what's going on. I'd love to see. We'll post them up on social media and do what we can to help you get the word out about the car.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate this.
Thanks for talking to us. And
it's things like this mean a lot to me. I don't want to get too emotional or whatever, but my dad's lack of interest in cars, I'm not now, at least I'm not ever going to be able to change that. But to hear these stories, it's almost like living vicariously through you guys when I hear that, and it means a lot. And to hear you recount a story of seeing it back then, I can't even put into words how much that means to me.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to share both ways. I remembered for a reason, so I shared it with you now. So that is incredible. It's been really good talking to you, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, fellas.
Cool.
you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Like us, share us, give us your comments.
What drives you?